Hello, everyone. Welcome to our AspireCTF walkthrough. This one will cover cryptography. For cryptography, we'll split it into two parts. The first part will cover some of the easier challenges. Then during the next session, which will cover part two, we will cover some of the harder stuff. So we will split them into two so that we have enough time for that. As usual, you can always view all our walkthroughs on our YouTube channel. We have all the past walkthroughs already listed there. So you can subscribe if you want to get notified of any new walkthroughs, or if you want to keep updated on whatever activities we are doing. For the cryptography challenge, I created most of the challenges. Actually, I created all of them. So I'm going to take you through the challenges, and we will cover various concepts as related to cryptography. So my name is CK. I am the lead, the mentorship lead at ICRAR Innovation Lead. And you can ask any questions during the session. You can ask in the live YouTube comments, or you can ask them on any of our other platforms. That's our Twitter page, our WhatsApp group, and so on and so forth. So with that, I think we can start immediately. So I'm going to share my screen, and then we will go through the first few challenges. So one moment while I share my screen. So I hope everyone can see my screen. I assume you all can. And we are immediately going to start with the very first question, which asked, obtain the flag from the following hex data. So hex data is hexadecimal data format. And what I usually do is there's a tool called XXD that can be used to convert between hex data and other formats. And there's a Swiss Army knife that I prefer to use for almost all of these challenges, and we will explore it. It's called CyberCTF. It's a tool by ghcq. They have an online version, but you can also install your own version. So we will start immediately with this challenge. And the first thing we will do is use the XXD tool. So the XXD tool is used to convert between hex data and other formats. So if you check the help menu, which is always a good thing to do when using Linux tools, you can view the various options. The ones we will be interested with are the R and the P. So the P is to print, the R is to revert from hex data. So we will first echo the data. So this is just to display the data and then pipe it into the XXD tool. By piping the input, I mean we redirect it to the actual tool. So if I run that, I will get some value. This value looks like hexadecimal data. Again, Linux has tools to convert between hexadecimal data to readable text, which is the ASCII format. So again, for conversion to ASCII from base 64, we can use a tool called base 64. Again, this is available on the Linux command line. The -D means we decode the data. And once we do that, we will get our flag. So this was the flag, and submission of this would have given you the correct answer. As I said, there is another option, and it's the ghcq tool called CyberChef. So it has various recipes. Recipes are what you want to do. So then you have an input panel and an output panel. So first thing we wanted to do was to convert from hex to the base 64. So from hex, so we can drag this recipe here. Then after that, we will also want to decode the data. So you can first paste the data here so that you have an idea of what is going on. So if I paste it into the input, you will see that we have a similar output that we had from the XXXD tool. So the next thing is we can also convert to from base 64. So once I add that recipe too, we have our flag here again. So there are various tools that you can use to do this challenge. These are just two of my favorite ones that I use. So we'll go to the next challenge, which was called the on and off. So all we have is a lot of zeros and ones, and from basic computer science knowledge or IT knowledge, you should be able to identify this as binary data. Again, there are various tools you can use to convert this from binary to readable data, but in our case, I'm going to use the CyberChef tool too. So I'm going to clear this data. Then I want to convert from binary. So let me search for that from binary. So let me drag the recipe. Then I'll paste the data here as the input. And we will immediately get our flag. So this isn't the only tool. There are actually online tools that you can use to do these conversions. An example would be just go to Google and search for binary decoder. And you will get various tools that you can use. You can even just open the very first one that I find. Then I can just come and paste our data here. And again, you have the same flag. So you aren't limited to one tool. There are various ways you can convert between binary and ASCII. You could even use pen and paper, but that would be now a tedious exercise. So as you can see, the first ones are pretty easy. So these were meant to be introductory challenges to start introducing you to the concepts, so that as you progress through the challenges, they start getting harder, so that by the time you get to the ones we'll cover during part 2, you will have an understanding of the basics. The next one was called primer touch, and there's a bunch of data here that doesn't look legible. Again, the namings of these challenges also acts as clues. So like this one, by touch, should give you an idea of what type of data you are expecting. And we know that what is used in touch when reading data is Braille. So Braille is used by blind people where they are able to read text by touching it with their fingers. So again, there are various tools you can use. Let's see if CyberChef has this. Does it have Braille converters? Yes, it does. So you can again go and copy that there as a recipe, paste this data here, and immediately we have our flag here. Again, you could have done this too with just a Braille decoder if you wanted to search for this. And you will have other ways to decode it. So you can call it a translator or decoder. And just paste, that's for text. So we can look for a Braille to ASCII translator. So let's check this. So I'll just come and paste my Braille text here, say Decrypt, and we will get our flag here. So again, these are challenges to give you an idea of what cryptography it's all about. It's about hiding messages, secret communications. It's about transforming data from one obvious message to a ciphertext message that isn't easily readable or decrypted. So I think from here, the next one we'll go to is, we've covered the primer. We can go to the XOR OTP. So the XOR OTP has, again, some data that looks like hex, and it says there's a key, and the key is Aspire Onetime Pad. Again, from the description of the challenge, it should give you an idea of what the challenge is. OTP means one-time pad, and what one-time pad means is your message is XORed with another key which is of equal length that is supposed to be used one time. So a one-time pad is ideally supposed to give you perfect encryption and secrecy if you use it only once. If you use the key, there are attacks against that, but it should start being the fundamental thing that you look for. Perfect secrecy and being resistant to various attacks. So a one-time pad here, we have some X data. Again, we have various ways to do this. You can use the CyberChef tool. You can even code this. You can write scripts to decode this and do the XOR decryption for you. We will cover some of these scripts during the next session. But for now, let's use ghcq again. So we look for an XOR function in ghcq, the CyberChef tool. So we'll look for XOR. Let me remove this first. So we'll use the XOR recipe. Then we will have this data as our input. And for our key, we were already given a key. The key was this. So we'll come and paste it here. It's not in ASCII, it's UTF-8. One thing we should do before we do this is remember that this was hex data. So we would have had to convert it from hex first. So let's insert a hex function there before this. So you can drop it before. And once that is done, we will have our key here. So again, the CyberChef tool allows you to have one function following the other. So like this, we started from converting it from hex. Then after that, we used the key to do an exol to get our flag. So this was the flag. As I said again, you still could have looked for an exol decoder or encoder online, and these two could have been used. Like you could have come here to this site, used our key. That's our data. Then our key was this. I think I had already pre-filled it in here. Then you will go and decrypt. It will also give you the same result. So there are a lot of tools you can use. Eventually, as I said, we'll come back to how you can use, we will focus on Python, how you can actually code some algorithms to do this for you. So let's go to the next challenge. It's called Exol Assortory Byte. This is very similar to the previous challenge. It's only that the key is different. For this, the key was of equal length to the data. If this was transformed to hex, it would be the same length as this, but this will just use in one byte. So same thing, we could just have come, copied the hex data, used it here. Then in our case, the key is just A, and here is our flag. As you can see, most of these challenges aren't really that difficult as long as you can Google research, you know how to use tools and so on and so forth. So again, all these concepts will be useful in solving the harder challenges at the end. So we will continue. There was another one called primal, and this one was called blocks. By blocks, I think for those who aren't aware, there are different types of ways you can encrypt data. There are stream ciphers, there are block ciphers. So for block ciphers, you usually have a key that encrypts the data in blocks. So the data is first split into chunks of data of a certain length. Then the key is used to encrypt those chunks one after the other. In our case, we've been told it's AES 128, and it's using ECB mode. So AES is currently it's the most commonly used cipher. It's one of the most secure. It hasn't been broken yet. And there are various techniques you can use AES. One of them is called the electronic code book. That's the ECB mode, where the data is split into chunks, then the key encrypts each chunk of data to create your ciphertext. In this case, we've been given the encrypted data, and we have a key called hack the planet. So again, you could write functions to do this for you. You could use your favorite language, could be Python, Go, or whatever else you're comfortable with. Or you could use online tools. You could also use the CyberChef tool, which I'm going to use. So again, I'm going to search for AES. Then we are trying to decrypt the data. So we will copy the data. This is the data. And we will also copy the key. But before you even do that, let's change this to what the challenge asks. Again, we know it's ECB 128. So we change this to ECB, and then the next thing we need is the key. It's not in hex in our case. The key is in UTF-8. And once we do that, we will have our data. So again, this is the simpler method to do this. There are tools you can use, but get the concepts and learn about the different types of encryption algorithms, tools, and so on and so forth. You could have done this online too. So solving these initial ones was pretty easy. Next, let's go to, we've covered the ECB. Let's cover the XOR repeater. There should be one here. So let's go back to the challenges page. There was one called XOR repeater. So let's cover this. This one, the following hex encoded key has been encrypted using a repeating key. Decode it. Again, same concept. For now, we won't go into too much of the technical details, as that will require a full session on itself. So this one is XOR, so let's clear this. We have the key. It's not in hex. Oh, we had to convert this from hex data because the data we are provided with is hex. And with that, we have our flag here. So again, pretty easy. So for now, understand the different types. So like this was a much larger data set. As you can see, the key is how many bytes? 1, 2, 3, 6 bytes, but the length of the actual data to be encrypted is a bit longer. So this had to be encrypted using a repeating key. So that meant that the key would be encrypted first, XORed with this first section, then the next 6 bytes would also be XORed with the key. That's why it's a repeating XOR. So again, let's continue. I think we've covered the XOR repeater. We've covered the blocks. Hope we haven't skipped anything yet. Nope, we haven't. Covered the blocks. So the next one is the tele. There was a challenge called tele. Again, the names are supposed to be descriptive in some sort of way. So in this challenge, we have the challenge asking you to find the message. We have been told what the flag format is. Then there is an attached file here. So I already downloaded this. And let's open this called tele. So from the image, I think for those who can tell, this is a telegraph. It used to be one of the fastest means of communication during the earlier days of communication when the world was transitioning into the electronic world. And from historical knowledge, you should already know that it employed Morse code to send messages. So that should already give you a hint. but right now all we have is an image. So the first thing you should always do when you have a file is determine what type of file it is. On Linux, the command line, the command you use is called file. Then you just specify the file name. In this case, it's called tele. And we'll see it's JPEG image. So everything looks okay. We were able to open it. So there really doesn't seem as if there is anything that has been modified in the actual file. The next thing you usually have to do is check if there is any metadata within the file. Metadata is information that is usually attached to the file that describes the file. So this could provide information such as when the file was created, who created it, what application created it, and so on and so forth. A tool you can use on Linux is called the EXIF tool. And if we just reference the file, we will be able to see various information about the file. Again, you can see the file name, the file size, when it was modified, and so on and so forth. Then we can see there was some metadata attached called Aspire, and there's some data here. Again, from the image itself, the name tele, referencing the telegraph, knowing that it used to use Morse code, and also by looking at this data does look like Morse code. We can try to decode this. So again, you could use ghcq or you could use online tools. So for this, we can start with an online tool, can look for a Morse code decoder. So you can just use this here. Then it's requesting the text. Should put it in the Morse code section. And once you do that, we do have our flag here. Again, we were told what the format is. So all you had to do was say Aspire, then put the decoded message in here. So again, ghcq2 has this. So you could have searched for Morse code, and you're decoding from Morse code. You can remove this. Then you could have pasted data here. Again, this doesn't show you the spaces, but you could have figured this from where these slashes are. So like this is after the first one, it's a dot here and a dash there. So those were the separators, as can be seen from the online decoder. Again, you could even script this. There is actually a write-up from one of the competitors that shows some of this. I think I have it here. So I hope you can see this URL. So we have someone who did a write-up and also did some of the code samples he used. So if you want to explore some of the Python code that you can use, you can also go through this walkthrough. But we'll also go through creating the Python code during the next session. So we've covered tele. We can go to Wavy. Wavy asks, find the message. Again, there's a file attached, and it's called wavy.wav. So let me play this. I already have it downloaded. I hope you can hear this. If you can't hear it, it's just a series of beeps. So again, if you're aware of Morse code, you know that it consists of a series of beeps and pauses to signify the dots and dashes, which represent your message. Could represent the letters of the alphabet and so on and so forth. So it's also a technique that was used to communicate, where a series of those beeps and pauses would be sent, and someone who is aware of how to decode Morse code could then be able to translate it into actual text. So again, there are decoders available online. For this one, I prefer to use the online decoders. So let's search for a Morse code audio decoder. So can we just use this? Then what we will do is we will upload our file, which is this. If we say play, it will start decoding the message. So let's wait for it to finish. So it's done, and we have our data here. It's an English sentence, so you can tell where the spaces are. And if you actually listen to the audio, there are actually longer pauses where the spaces are. So with this, you would have had the flag and format and submitted it in the format that was asked. For the tele one, it was the wavy one. This was the format that was asked. So find the message, then you just enclose the message in the in between the curly brackets here. So there are other techniques you can use to decode this. One tool you can use is called Audacity. It can actually, do I have it installed? Don't have it installed. Let me see if I can quickly install it. I hope you can actually convert the audio beeps into a format that you can use to detect the actual encoded data. So I think should pretty quickly install it. Then we can open Audacity. Then what we can do is we can drag the file onto Audacity. And you can start seeing, let's see, we can expand this. I think trying to see if I can zoom into this. No. Okay, let's try to see if we can analyze this data. Oh yeah, finally I've seen this zoom button here. So from this, you can actually start seeing that if you know Morse code, you can start identifying what type of message is being transmitted. Because if we searched for what the Morse code equivalent of S is, you see, it's 3 dots. So if we go to Audacity, from this you can see these look like the 3 dots here. Then there's a gap. Then if we search for what the O is, that's 0. You can see it's the 3 dashes. So you could actually go to an audio encoding tool, and from the spectrum analysis, could translate that back to a message. Like this is 2 dashes again. So I could go there and add 2 dashes here. I think this should be M, but if you converted from now the Morse code to this, it should be M. And you can see that's exactly what this leads to. So that's another tool you can use if you don't want to use any of the online decoders or translators, or you have an idea of how to translate. You can also use converter tables, then you can check what do 3 dots mean, what do 3 dashes mean, and so on and so forth. So again, let's continue. So that was the Wavy one. Next one we'll tackle is, we've tackled the Morse code one, we've tackled that. The next one is Alan's hash. So for Alan's hash, the question was, what is Alan's password? And there was a flag format specified here, and there's a file attached. If you open the file, we get this QR code. QR codes can be decoded. You can use your phone camera. There are command line tools you can use. You can use ghcq. So you could go and search for a QR decoder. Like this one is a pretty good one. Then you can upload the file here and it will decode it for you. But let me show you how you can also use ghcq to decode QR codes. So you can come and search for a QR code, pass QR code. That's the name of the function. Then we'll just drag that file here as the input. So it immediately decodes that for you. And this is what is in the QR code. So if I copy this and go to this site, we have, it's a Pastebin link. Pastebin is a site that people use to share text data. So it's usually free for use and you can paste data there and share them with people. It's both used by legitimate and malicious actors. Like this looks like someone uploaded some sensitive data here. And there's a statement here. I propose to consider the question, can machines think? And there's what looks like some encrypted data here. So the first thing we have to try and do is identify what type of data this is. So from IT knowledge, from system administration knowledge, this is an ntlm hash. An ntlm hash is most used in Windows operating systems for authentications, especially Windows that, especially systems that use Active Directory. So if you've interacted with Active Directory, you should be able to identify this as an Active Directory hash. It's an ntlm hash. The first part is usually the username. So this is the name that the person uses to log into their machine. 500 is a value that identifies an administrator. So there are various values that identify different levels of users, but 500 is usually for administrator. The first part of the hash is usually called the LM hash. We aren't going to focus on that today, but there are various light up on what this is. So you can search for the structure of an ntlm hash and what the different section is mean, but this is the username. This denotes the level of access. So this is administrator. This is the LM hash, and this is the NT hash. So so combined, it's an ntlm hash. What we are interested in is the NT hash part. So this part is usually a specific algorithm used by Windows, the Active Directory systems, to convert the password into a hash. So there are ways you can decode this. You can use password cracking tools. Two of the best ones, one is called John, and another one is called Hashcat. So if you want to know how to do that, it's a pretty easy thing to do. So you can even just Google for any of these things and it will give you the exact commands to use. So like if we went to this site here, and again, as I described, there are different parts of the hash. There's LM, but it gives you the commands that you'd use to crack the hash. So you could use this, but the success of your hash cracking is dependent on your word list. So word lists are lists that your password cracker uses to try and guess the password from. So if your list is big enough and has one of the passwords, a password that is in the word list, then it will be able to be cracked. But if the password isn't included in the word list, the password wouldn't be identified. The other option would be to brute force the password and try all possible combinations. And this would likely take a very, very long time, especially if the password is of a long length. So what I usually do if I have ntlm hashes, first thing is there are certain sites that have pre-cracked hashes for you. So you can go and try see if someone has ever cracked that hash. So if you just look for an ntlm decryptor, should get some sites. There's this one here. There's this one here. There's this one here. So let's try this one first. So let's go and copy the NT hash first. So as I said, we are interested in this part. You can come and try decrypt this. If it has ever been cracked in this by these people, it will be here. But unfortunately, this is not in their database. So we move on. So let's try the ClarkStation. ClarkStation is one of my favorite ones. They usually have a very large set of pre-cracked hashes. And if you don't find them on the previous site, that was the MD5 decryptor site, you can usually try here. They also have a word list that you can download and now use either John or Hashcat to try and crack the hashes yourself. So let's see if they have cracked this previously. And we have a match immediately. And we have our decrypted password here. So then that would have been our answer here. So the flag would have been Aspire, then the hash in here. You can close that. I think we've covered Alan's hash. Let's cover the Matthew 2221. So seems like some jumbled up data here. So again, the title of the challenge looks interesting. So a good thing would be to first Google what does Matthew 2221 have to do with a crypto challenge. So searching for that, the first thing we see is a quote about what Matthew 2221 is. It's about advocating support for taxes, but further advice and so on and so forth. But what stands out is Caesar here. Again, if you go to here, it's all about, so give back to Caesar what is Caesar's and to God what is God's. So since we are talking about, it's a cryptography challenge. So what does Caesar have to do with cryptography? So a good thing would be to just go and search for Caesar. And if there's a Cipher by Caesar, and we immediately find our Wikipedia page called the Caesar Cipher. And what it says, it's a shift cipher. It's one of the simplest and most widely known encryption techniques. And what happens is they substitute a letter with another letter, a certain position away from that letter. Like in here, A is substituted with X, B is substituted with Y, C with Z, as you can see. Each letter is substituted with a letter further away from it. So it could be one letter away from it, 2 letters away from it, and so on and so forth. So they are labeled differently based on the gap between the letters. One of the most popular ones is called rot 13. Rot 13 is a cipher where the letter that is substituted with it is the 13th letter. So there's actually an image here. Let's see. So in this case, A would be substituted with N, B with O, C with P. So it's a shift of 13 letters. So again, there are various decoders online that someone can use. So let's see, we have a Caesar Cipher decoder. So let's just use the first one we get. Let's copy the data, paste it here, and decrypt. So with this one, it will try all the possible variations. It will try shifting it by 1. So it will substitute A with B, B with C. If that doesn't work, A with C, B with D, and so on and so forth. And it will give you all the possible solutions. And it will list all of them here. So for us, we are interested in one that looks as if it's useful to us. And we have this one here, which tells us it's been shifted by 13 and it decodes to this data here. And we can see that there's a flag here. Again, we could have used CyberChef. So let's see. Caesar. Is there Caesar here? No, we don't have Caesar, but I can see we have rot 13 here. So you can modify the amount you shift the characters. So if you go and copy this, it also decodes the same information, and we have our flag here. So I think we've covered all this. Then the next one is the cover image. So find what is hidden. My cool friend will help you pass. So let's see the scorpion.jpg. So if you open the scorpion.jpg, it's an image here. I think for some context, Scorpion is a character from a game called Mortal Kombat. So if you're aware of the game, then the clue in the message itself gives you a hint. So in Mortal Kombat, there's a character called Sub-Zero whose how would I term it? Whose character is all about freezing and the cold. So this should have been a hint to someone who has played the game. So my cool friend will help you pass. So it means there's probably something that is required related to Sub-Zero to help you pass. But that still shouldn't hinder you from solving the challenge, even if you aren't aware of the game. So there's a technique called Steganography. It's a technique where you hide data within an image. So it's a very common technique in hiding messages. People have used it to hide data, both for malicious and legitimate purposes. But there are tools that you can use to identify this. Again, as I said, first thing you should always do is find out what type of file it is. Then from this, looks like a regular file. It's a JPEG file and so on and so forth. We can check if there's any metadata in it. Nothing that seems out of the ordinary that can offer a hint. Another tool you can try and use is called strings. Strings tries to see if there is any readable strings, ASCII strings in the file. So if we do this, there's too much data here. So what I usually like to do with strings is specify a minimum length. So let's say if I specify -n10, it will only show me strings that are at least 10 in length. So again, nothing seems to stand out. So with this, there are tools that you can use to try and extract data from the file. One is usually called StegHide. So StegHide, let me show you how you can use StegHide to extract data. So for StegHide, you can usually, it's a tool you can install on Linux. You can try and extract any data that is within the file. So these are the flags you can use. You can even go and try and figure out what those flags mean. Again, you can always check the help menu. So as you can see, extract means we try to extract data. Then there's one we used, the file name, extract data from file. Those are the two ones we used. There was a -v, which means verbose, which tells us to show us any information. So again, we will try to see if there's any data we can extract from the file. And we are being asked for a passphrase. From the clue, we could have tried to use the sub-zero as the passphrase from this hint here. My cool friend will help you pass. And again, pass is short form for the word password. But to take away the guesswork out of it, another thing we can use is we can use a brute force tool. And there are various ones that are available, but one that you can use is called ghcq. Let me show you, there's a way you can install ghcq. So I hope everyone can see this. So this is how it's hosted under this site here. So let me open that up. So there are various versions that you can use. For a Debian system like Ubuntu, you can download the .deb file and install it on your Linux. So you can download and install it, but you also need to install some library here. So if I've already installed it, but let me just show you. So this is required for the file. So if I install the tool, actually, you need to download this file first. So actually you first need to install this library here. I've already installed it. Then download this .debian file. I can actually try and download it and reinstall it. So it's this file here. Let's see, copy link location. And download it here. So it's downloaded. And on Ubuntu or Debian systems, you can use the dpkg installer. It's a package manager that you can use to install packages. So it should be installed. I already have it installed. Then let's see if we can find the help menu for the ghcq tool. And it will give you the various options you can use. So we are mostly interested in the clerk, we'll specify a word list. The most commonly used word list is called the ROQ word list. It's a curated list of common passwords that you can use to try and crack other passwords. So I already have it here. So let's try and see if we can crack the password that we were asked for. So StegSeq. Then we want to crack. And we need to specify a word list. I already have the word list here. And then our file name was the Scorpion one. And you should see that it found the passphrase sub-0. So even if you didn't know about the hint, this should have given you this. And it's extracted the file to this file name. Again, since we now know the password, we could now go back to the stag hide tool. And if we use that password too, it should give us the password, the extraction of the file. And again, let's extract it. And if you open the file now, should have the sub-0 file. So this was done by StegSeq. This was done by the stag hide. So once this is extracted, it will show you a photo with our flag here. And that was the flag. Same thing for the second tool. So I believe we've covered all the challenges for part 1. For the next section, we'll cover a lot of these breaker challenges. The ones that are remaining are the breaker single byte XOR, breaker single byte XOR in a haystack. We have the attack of the oracle, and we also the breaker repeating XOR. So the next session will have a lot of technical content. So if you are interested in pre-reading on this material, I would suggest you also look at some challenges from, I think they're called the crypto piles. If you are interested in more crypto challenges, we borrowed a lot of ideas from them. So you can read up on this, you can try some of the challenges, and this will also help you prepare for our next session, which should have more of the technical stuff. So that should be the end of the easier challenges for now. Then next week, we will have the part 2, unless something happens that postpones the session. So if you have any questions before then, you can contact us on our Twitter pages, ask questions on the YouTube video, and we will respond to them. So thank you everyone who participated. And if you missed any part of the recording, again, it's on YouTube. You can check it out there. And we will be happy to answer any questions that you have. Any burning questions? I see some comments on the chat. So if you want to participate in the CTF, you can register on the ciphercode.com platform. That's where we host our challenges. Then you can register. You need to register both as an individual and as a team. Then you will be able to log in into the CTF challenge platform. So with that, thank you everyone, and I'll see you next time. Good night.